So welcome to video number 4, and now we're going to get into the story. I remind you that this is a set of videos prepared for the project Eurekart, bringing nanotechnologies to arts, so plastic arts and scenic arts. It's a very, very interesting project that should make students really interested about this really fundamental scientific world of nanotechnology. Okay, so let's get started with the 4th video, and we are going to be talking about story. Now, story is finally, how a story is constructed. And mind you, we could spend a whole semester talking about this. There are college courses. In fact, I teach some of them exactly on that. But here we're going to be doing the really, really short version, but quite sweet, I think. It just gives you the basic elements that will allow you and your students to really get into storytelling. So, what is a story? Story is a journey. A story is a voyage of discovery. Just like a journey, it needs to have some elements in it. Otherwise, it's a commute. A commute is not a journey. Commute is, can be quite boring, but a journey should always provide some understanding about things. And a journey, in order to be such a thing, always should present some sort of complication. Now, sometimes you will see in stories, they tell you, oh, there must be a problem to overcome. But I don't like to talk about problems. I like to talk about complications because complications can be very positive things. Like, for instance, falling in love. Falling in love can be a great complication, right? If that really gives you happiness afterwards. So, you need to have a complication somewhere. And the other element is that a journey always causes some sort of change, right? If you don't change, then it wasn't really a journey. As I said before, it's really more like a commute. Commute can be good if you need to go to work. You don't always want to have a journey going to work, but it doesn't give you any insights about things. So, what you need to do as a storyteller, you need to try to understand and be able to describe how your characters, your main character, which we call the hero, and we will not get into the hero's journey, but you're more than welcome to explore that. There are a lot of resources on the internet. Now, how your hero changes. So here, let me give you a very, very nice little outline on the construction of a story. And this outline is based on the hero's journey, but it's really simplified, and it should make life easier for your students that want to construct stories about some scientific topic. So you start with the status quo. Everything is okay. And the status quo is needed because then if you're going to have a transformation, you need to know where the transformation, how the transformation happened, and what transformation did you go through. So really, you need to start from where you are now. And if you think about this, in many, many movies at the beginning, there is always the status quo. You always see the hero, the characters going through their lives, and then something happens. And that something is the complication, right? It could be that you're driving to school. If you're a student, you're taking a bus to go to school, and then all of a sudden the bus breaks down, and there is the beginning of the adventure. Now, when you have a complication, the natural thing is try to solve the complication, right? Otherwise, it's really not a complication. It makes your life complicated, so you need to solve it. You need to do something about that, but you cannot solve it right away. Otherwise, it's boring, and the story is boring, and you don't get anything out of it. So you need to make a try, and then another try, and another try, and then finally you find a solution. But that's not the end of the story. When you find the solution, something else needs to happen. You need to have this transformation. The solution needs to tell you something about life, about your existence. That's where the big themes come in from the previous video. The solution is really important, and that's why you need to struggle to get to the solution. And then you have the transformation and the new status quo. So you move from one status quo to another one. You connect the two of them through your journey and your adventure. And this is a basic structure of a really simple story. But if you think about this, pretty much any movie or book will contain this structure. Yes, it can be much more complicated. Maybe there are other structures within the structure, but you can boil it down to this. And if you are asking your students to write a very short, maybe 3 or 5 minute story about something, and they use this, it will always be interesting. There are other elements. I'm not going to get into this. Coherence of the situation. Is it believable? Are your characters somehow believable? Is it psychologically true? And all of this, but there is no reason to get into that now, because that would require a much longer introduction. Now, why not playing a final game with your students? Ask your students, maybe this is just a suggestion, but you can play with this, to think of a movie. Ask them to think of a movie that you like. And then, can you spot some elements of the structure in the movie? Could be a novel. It doesn't have to be a movie. It can be Harry Potter. It can be Star Wars. It can be Spider-Man. Whatever you think is interesting for them. It can be a song. Sometimes songs contain elements of the structure in there. If you listen to Bob Dylan, a lot of his ballads are written on the structure that I just showed you. So, this is the end of our fourth video, and that's the last one. I gave you a very brief but hopefully useful and interesting voyage on why and how to construct a story. These stories can be about anything. In this specific context, I invite you to think about nanotechnologies, and within the Eurecart project, you will see there are workbooks both for the scenic arts and also the plastic arts that you can play with, and from there you can get a lot of interesting ideas about constructing stories and involving your students to become active in the idea of reasoning around nanotechnologies and science in general. So thank you very much.